For the better part of the last 10 years, Fantagraphics is doing an amazing job publishing the Carl Barks library with Donald Duck and Uncle Scrooge. They have released 30 volumes so far, but they did release them out of order. They're trying to hit the high spots and hit the best stories first. But finally, we have Volume 1 has been released, the earliest volume with the earliest Carl Barks strips in here. I'm going to put this under the microscope, so stay tuned and watch this video until the end. And we're back. My name is Taylor. This is Taylor Talks Comics. Thank you for joining me. Please give the video a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already, and comment down below with any of your thoughts. And real quick, every Wednesday at noon Eastern, I've been going live to have a special live show where we talk about comic book news and comic book related topics. So join us every Wednesday at noon live. And the replays are available after that in the replay tab or the live tab. And real quick, I want to clarify what I was said in my early intro there. This is officially the 28th book that has come out in the Carl Barks library, but we know of 30 volumes so far because volume 29 comes out in a few months, and then volume 30 has been solicited for early 2026. So there will be 30 volumes at least, and a few more after that. But this is the 28th one, but it is volume 1. So what that means for anybody that hasn't picked these up yet, if you go to the back page here, it has all 28 volumes listed. And you could pause the video and take a look at that if you want. But this one that we're looking at today is Donald Duck Finds Pirate Gold, and that's volume 1. And then they've been releasing these out of order based on like popular stories and things, but now we have volume 1 through volume 28 consecutively with no gaps. And then volume 29 and 30 will be the next two that come out. So it's really exciting. This has been a long long reprint project by Fantagraphics, and I'm glad that they're getting closer and closer to fulfilling the entire library to where we'll have everything that Carl Barks did for the Duck comics, and as well as any other Disney comics they've been splicing in here and there. So here's the intro page. The series design was designed by Jacob Covey, but this particular volume was designed by Doug Erb. And special thanks to Tucker Stone for sending me out the review copy for this. I appreciate that. So here's the table of contents, which are great. They always are very informative and fill out everything. So all stories are written and drawn by Carl Barks, except as noted. So you'll see any other additional credits here on stories that Carl Barks didn't write and draw. And some of these he only wrote the script for, so we'll see artwork by other artists in here. It starts off with Donald Duck Finds Pirate Gold. And this was, I think it's the cover is by Carl Barks, I believe. Front and side covers. Oh no, Hank Porter did the cover for this. But the inside pages are half done by Carl Barks, as far as art goes, and the script was credited to Bob Karp. So Carl Barks was it Jack Hanna is who Carl Barks split art duties with, but this is the earliest comic book that Carl Barks did the artwork for. Is Donald Duck Finds Pirate Gold, and it's a adventure, issue length story. It's not one of that's one of the beauties too of this library. You get to see Carl Barks work with 1-page gag strip. You get to see him work in single panel or 4-panel strips in here sometimes too. 10-page strips, which is I think where he worked in the most, and then you get these this issue length stories as well. And this one, Donald Duck Finds Pirate Gold, originally was going to start off as an animated feature, where Disney would have these animated shorts that were, I think they're around 8 to 10 minutes. Someone could correct me if I'm wrong. That would show up at movie theaters before certain movies. And this was supposed to be that. And then it, for some reason, hit the cutting room floor, and Bob Karp, Jack Hanna, Carl Barks all reworked it into this comic strip. Now, some of the characters changed because the original animated feature was going to feature Mickey Mouse and Goofy, and I think Carl Barks then substituted those out for Huey, Dewey, and Louie. And I think someone else was going to be in this as well. There's some other character change in this too. But it's great to see, and I love that they credited who's on which page, so you can see the pages that Carl Barks is on and compared to Jack Hanna's artwork. But there's some things that are so apparent from early on in Carl Barks' artwork that would linger on for his long and lengthy career of doing Duck comics for, I think, 20 plus years. He was doing the Duck comics, and then a whole lifetime of drawing Duck related artwork. And then, so we're gonna get some other ephemera here. I do love that they kept like this title treatment on tops of the pages at some points, and even in the earlier issue that we were just looking at, you even have like the bottom of the page will say certain things like buy war savings bonds and stamps. Will be like, so they kept it like in pretty facsimile type format here. Here's the Mighty Trapper. Here's the Mummy's Ring. Now this cover was not by Carl Barks. They do talk about that too. So for the Carl Barks collection that Russ Cochran did, they had these mock covers made. Let me see if I can. So Donald Duck and the Mummy's Ring, Carl Barks never did the cover for this issue. But you can see it back here, they did this mock cover where they took a panel from his comic and then reworked it as if it was a comic book issue with CBL, which is Carl Barks' library. Gave it like the title treatment and things, and reworked it to be a cover of the slipcase for the box set. And they did 7 of those, I believe. But I do love that they kept the original cover in here anyways, you know, regardless if Carl Barks was the artist on it or not. Now, Mummy's Ring, this is one that, in particular, Carl Barks really did a lot of research through National Geographic magazine. I guess he was a big subscriber to that. And this is the first time, or the first issue where it's really apparent that he's using that kind of research, where you can actually learn things while reading Carl Barks books, which is amazing. That there's these fun adventure strips where you're also learning some, you know, geographical or historical fact as well. Not unlike Tintin was another great adventure strip that had the same kind of format to it, where it's this great adventure, there's a lot of humor to it, and you're also learning things. Pluto Saves the Ship. This one is one that he did not draw, but he was the scripter on. So he scripted this story, but the artist was, I forget the name of him, I'm sorry. Let me flip back here real fast. That's why this table of contents are so important. The art was by Bruce Bushman. So you see the art looks very, very different. And there's a lot of zipatone and things used, I noticed as well. Like, I love that tech there. But this is like the fun, like, full-length strip about Pluto. And so again, this is not, there's no duck characters in this comic at all. But it's a script by Carl Barks. And that's what the completion of this entire Carl Barks library is doing, is everything that he's ever done for Disney. We saw in one of the most recent volumes they released, which I think was volume 2, if I'm not mistaken, had Carl Barks writing and drawing a Mickey Mouse strip, which was pretty cool. My favorite story in this particular volume is Donald Duck and the Lucky Rabbit's Foot. And it's a story, even it says in the back here, this is like Carl Barks' early example of him using philosophy in his stories and trying to show that off. And it's Huey, Dewey, and Louie have this Lucky Rabbit's Foot, and Donald Duck thinks it's a bunch of hogwash, a bunch of hokum. Thinks having a Lucky Rabbit's Foot is silly and it actually doesn't work. But Huey and Dewey and Louie, they keep coming across these incidents where Huey, Dewey, and Louie are like, do you believe our rabbit's foot now? We lucked out and you didn't. And they come across this gorilla. And this gorilla is amazing because you don't see Carl Barks draw in this way a lot. Like the rendering on, especially this gorilla face here, reminds me of like a Charles Burns. Now, I'm not saying that Carl Barks ripped off Charles Burns, because I don't even know if Charles Burns, I don't know, was he even alive when he was doing this? I don't know, he was very young. Charles Burns, his career came much later. But just like the brushwork and the rendering on the gorilla's face reminds me a lot of like a Charles Burns. But this gorilla looks so different than like Carl Barks' typical art style, which shows you the range that Carl Barks would have. And I just love that story. It's so funny. And even this is like the great comedic timing and cartooning that Carl Barks would make famous. But that's my favorite story in this volume. Now we're going to get some daily strips. These daily strips took place, or came out in 38 to 40. And you see here, Carl Barks is a plotter, and scripter is Bob Karp, and art is by Al Taliaferro. And Al Taliaferro did a lot of the art for the comic strips for years and years. I know I read some in the Greatest Hits book that Fantagraphics released. It's like the 90th anniversary collection of Donald Duck comics. A lot of his strips were in there, and I enjoyed them quite a bit. Now, they've been reformatted to fit these pages, so I think they originally released 4 panels to a landscape page, but they've reformatted them so they fit 2 strips per page without having to change the format of the book here. And here's some covers, like I said, the mock covers. This is the color guides that Carl Barks would do, but the actual printed cover didn't have his coloring work with it. That's one thing they noted here, too, is that Carl Barks never was able to actually color professionally any of his comics in his career. Here's some storyboards that Carl Barks would work on for some animated features. And then story notes for every story in this whole book, which is amazing. And they have this in every volume, which is great. So you're going to get like a little essay by a Carl Barks historian talking about each of these stories, which is a lot of fun. Here is the Mummy's Ring. There's 3 different pages in the Mummy's Ring that Carl Barks, when they're being reprinted in a different single issue, he was not able to find the original stats for it or whatever, so he had to re-ink them based on the original art. And then since then they found the original. So the story you get in Mummy's Ring inside the book is the original inks and pencils on here, but they kept the re-inked pages in the back so you can still see them, which is really cool. There's more story notes. Yeah, and then here's bonus story notes. And then here's a little essay by Maggie Thompson about comics reader finding comic book gold, talking about how Carl Barks was the good duck artist and what made him the good duck artist and how he grew a fandom around him without people even actually knowing his name. And then here's the essay, Life Among Ducks, by Donald Alt, that's been in every volume. And then here's the contributors, little biographies about them, where these strips first appeared, and then a bunch of other Fantagraphics releases. So that's it. So happy to have this volume in here. I do have a video on my channel showing off every volume of the Carl Barks library up until a certain point. I think we've had 3 or 4 releases since that video came out. Whenever we get to 30, though, I think I'm going to do another video, an updated video showing off every volume so far. But I'm so glad to have this in the collection. It looks just like all the other books, too, on the spine with the new Fantagraphics logo. And it's just beautiful. This is such a beautiful set that they have released and such a great achievement in comic book history and preserving it. But yeah, that's it. Thank you guys for watching. Please give the video a thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't already. Comment down below with your thoughts, your favorite Carl Barks stories, what you love about Carl Barks or Duck Comics in general, all that stuff. Join me on Wednesdays at noon Eastern for our live shows, and keep talking comics.